I got a bunch of equipment on the table here that I would say are essentials for any bikepacking trip. You could argue that some of them are quality of life, but I'm not going on any bikepacking trip in the future without everything on this table. And this isn't all of my setup. I have a full list in the description, and I got a separate video where I break it down if you wanted to see like a detailed description of everything. So starting off, we got a Blackburn rack here. So this is a rack that would just kind of go on your forks or in your inner frame. And you could put anything in here from like a water bottle to a dry bag to anything of that shape if you get creative. And to go with that, you need some ski straps. So these are Fix Plus straps, and they slot in the back here, getting the tension and then lapping it over the hook. And they got a bunch of holes here if you have kind of like varying spacings between your bolts. So they got you covered, to be honest. Next, power banks. So of course, if you're gonna be going away for a few days, camping especially, you need some good power banks. These are fairly chunky, they're 20,000 milliamp, and they're from a company called Uniqlo. I got these from Amazon. So this small one here, this would last me 3 days, like charging anything. So I charge my phone every night, and you know, doing lights and the occasional kind of like charge for my Garmin and things like that. So 3 days for this one. And even though this one's a bit bigger, it's a faster speed charger, and it takes a bit more power doing that. So this would last me 2 days, 2.5. Definitely an essential if you're going away for a few days and you're not going to be next to a power source. So this one's an essential for me. It may not be for everyone because of the weight of these things. So I've got 2 locks here. First of all, an Abus folding lock. So this one was great because it sits on the bike. It's got a little mount, and you know, very easy to do apart, quite light and very flexible. So you can get it around a lot of things, and you know, your bike will be secure if you go to a cafe or you just go to a supermarket and you just want to do a shop. Definitely an essential for this one. I got a kryptonite D-lock here as well. So I bought this mainly for the insurance that I had. So my insurance would only pay out if I had the bike locked with this thing. It's called a gold secure lock, and very chunky, and it would deter, you know, a lot of people from taking the bike. But if someone has an angle grinder, they're gonna get through this, they're gonna get through any lock. So this thing is basically just for the insurance, and it is pretty heavy. Getting a bit rogue here, not everyone would recommend this, but dental picks. So these are kind of like those Harp dental picks. And I recommend those because, you know, you want to look after your teeth, you're having a lot of sugar, and you know, when you're bikepacking, your hands are generally not very clean. So you don't really want to put your hands in your mouth with actual floss and go about the teeth. So these are just amazing for looking after your mouth. But that is, of course, if you are someone that flosses, which you should be if you want to keep your teeth. So next up, we got a down jacket. So I would argue this is probably one of the best things here. This is a ultralight down from Uniqlo with a hood as well. Incredibly soft and excellent value compared to kind of like the name brands out there in outdoor jackets like this. So this was 75 pounds, extremely warm, extremely light, and you can see it packs away into this little bag that they give you here. And the best thing about it, if it gets too warm to wear this, you can just use it as a pillow. It is the softest thing ever, and I use this every night sleep in the tent that I had. It was, yeah, great bargain. So next up we got lights. So it always pays to have a good pair of lights, front and back. So this just alerts cars that you're there, you know, in case you're in any kind of accident. You could be like, you know, you had your lights on, especially in the dark. You know, sometimes it's very hard to see a bike in the dark. And, you know, I'm dressed in all black, so I just want to make sure everyone knows where I am. And then second off is a head torch. So great for camping, and especially if you're in the winter where it starts to get dark at like, you know, 5 or 6 o'clock, and you're not really going to be setting up that early, so you could use this to set up in the dark. And when you're on the bike as well, if you are cycling, if it's pitch black, this thing is absolutely amazing. It lights up the entire road. It's almost like a car headlight, and it's good because it follows, you know, where your head is moving. So absolutely excellent for that. So next up, we've got 2 things here. So a Ziploc bag. This was part of a 20-piece or 25-piece set that I got from Amazon, and I used all of them. You know, to put clothes in, to put my tent in, everything. Even though you might have waterproof pannier bags and everything, stuff still gets wet. And if you're putting like a wet tent or your socks get wet and you put them in your bags, it's gonna be touching everything else. If you can separate things with these bags, it makes life so much easier. And it also means you can pack down a lot more compact because, you know, everything is neatly organized and As opposed to just packing stuff in, you'll find you can't fit much in your pannier bags. So inside here, I got my puncture kit. So I got spare inner tubes. I usually carry 3 to 4. So I got 3 in this bag here. So you need your inner tube. You need some tire levers to get the actual tire off to access the inner tube. And Allen keys if you have a through axle, but if you just have kind of like the hinge that you can just clip up, then that's fine. So you can use a multi-tool, but I find Allen keys are just much more strong. So you need all of these things here. I'll list them down below. If you haven't changed an inner tube before, I do recommend that you do give it a go. And this is just a handheld pump. So, you know, you put it on the inlet, flip that thing up, and then you can just get pumping. So some people carry canisters and everything, but you know, they're perishables, and this thing can be used for, you know, its full lifetime unless it just snaps. So essential bits of kit there, especially if you're going off-road for a while, getting a puncture, just a nightmare. So lastly, this is probably one of the best things, to be honest. So a phone mount. So I got a quad lock mount here on a TT bar, so that's what this is called. It's like an aero bar. I just used it for changing up my grip because my back or my shoulders or my wrists would hurt. But this thing here, I got it for a 13 mini, an iPhone, and this is the case. You just slot it on, clicks in, very strong, wobbles ever so slightly, but 157 days, this thing never fell off. And I only had to tighten the Allen key once, which is in the center here, if you find it's getting loose, just because it rattles all the time. So this is excellent, you know. I don't really need to tell you why you should have access to your phone a lot. You know, if you want to take pictures, if you want to use Google Maps or any other kind of mapping tool, just excellent. And then this one is if you have a drone. So I got a mount here for the controller, which I'll just quickly show you. I got a Mini Pro 4, which is an absolutely amazing drone. I got the one with the screen, it's called an RC2 remote. So what you get in the kit is you get this little axle that goes on the back there, it just screws in, and then you got a kind of like GoPro attachment here. So that screws into the back, and there's one last bit to the puzzle, just hiding away. So you can see there, it's kind of like a little GoPro mount, and that just slots in, just screws in. And this is excellent if you're going to be doing tracking shots, you know, if the drone's going to be following you from behind. You don't want to be holding the controller or like balancing it somewhere, because if you go over a bump and it falls off, you know, it could be damaged or do something stupid to your drone. So having this here is excellent. It's not the strongest grip, you know, it does move forward and backwards sometimes, especially if you're going on a bumpy road. You'll find that it will just kind of slip all the way there, but it's still there, which is the main thing. So that is kind of an essential if you want to take those tracking shots and you don't want to risk damaging your drone. So with that as well, if you wanted to double up the kind of like safety on this, you know, in case you were worried that it would snap, or an alternative. So with the lanyard, you get these two little kind of lifting eyes here. So they screw into the bottom of the remote, and you know, the lanyard just slots on, you know, clip it on like that, and just put it around your neck, or you could like tie it around your handlebars or something. But this is a good alternative, or just a good additional measure just in case you wanted to make sure it, you know, definitely didn't break. And then lastly, the case for this. So this is a DJI Mini Pro 4, and it comes with a kind of shoulder bag that's quite soft. So I wanted something hard and something that would kind of buff everything out because it's got a foam lining. So I packed this away into my top pannier bag, and you know, there's other stuff in there, it's rattling about, and I didn't want it to get damaged, so this was kind of like a great solution for that. But of course, not everyone has a drone, they're pretty expensive, and that is exactly why you want to look after it. So like I said, this is all the stuff that I consider essential, that I will be taking on any bikepacking trip I do in the future. Even if I trim down the setup, I'd bring it in some kind of form. You know, I might not need 2 power banks. I probably won't need this kryptonite lock if I'm doing some kind of wilderness bikepacking trip. But if you do go into cities and things, you know, it is recommended, especially if you have insurance. So I've detailed everything in the description. I've provided links to some things, you know, like this I bought in the store, but I detailed what it is. And yeah, if you have any questions below, please let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao!